Hi there, Warriors, and welcome to this new live stream on the Uruguayan Heroes YouTube channel. And today I'm joined by Farid. You've seen him before, and he's here again to talk about Uruguay against Ghana, about the previous two games, and the feeling right now. Farid, you haven't been on. I've spoken to you, but you haven't been on YouTube to talk about the games
Yeah,
since we did the video about previewing the tournament.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I'll just straight ahead. Would like to know how you're feeling and
Sure.
how you've lived these past two games.
Well, again, thanks for the opportunity to be on. It's always very special to be able to be in a space to speak with other fans, to interact with other supporters, and it hasn't been a 10 days the way that one would have hoped as a fan, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. We have as supporters and as fans, we sit back and we watch. We do our best to enjoy. We can have questions and thoughts about how a team performs, but overall, we really don't have much control, or our actions don't have much control into how 11 humans perform uh, in the middle of a football match. So again, it's not where maybe as a fan of the team you would have wanted to be going into a final match, but this is how it is. It could have been easily the other way or a different way, but this was one of the possible outcomes in watching and supporting a team in any sporting tournament. Either it goes really well for the team you're rooting for, or it doesn't. So tomorrow, by this time, we'll know if Uruguay are on to the next round of this World Cup or not. And there are many fans of other teams that are hoping for the opposite, who would want Ghana or South Korea to move on. So we'll see tomorrow what happens, but it should be very exciting. It's great for the excitement of the sport and having people engaged. These last few days has been very. Uh, just look at today. We have now two group stages that I think it was by goal differential that decided who moved on. We were about to see a fair play differential, so it's exciting. I understand it's also stressful, but it's also exciting.
No, no, you're talking really rationally, which I appreciate. But I mean, we're not gonna delve into it too much because what's happened is has happened, and you have to face up to the situation we have right now. But looking at these past two games, I mean, what are things or decisions you believe have contributed to this? Was for me a shit show, to be honest, because that's what it's been. Yeah,
Well, uh, the commentary there's been a discourse amongst a lot of the fans of the team and even some of the announcers and journalists of perhaps seeing certain players not in the same position that we are accustomed to seeing them at the club level. One would think about Valverde and the position in which he has been playing, or Darwin Nunez as well. Questions about who is starting. We don't see the practices. We don't see the training sessions. We don't know what's going on. Why didn't Arrascaeta get any time in the first match? Why didn't he start in the second match? Um, why was there at times a back line of five in the second match instead of going out and looking for the win? Why does this team look very different than what was seen in those qualifying matches? It looks different. Has there been over analysis? Did the coaching staff overanalyze and decide let's change things at this moment? I don't know, but it's not what was expected.
no,
And I think ultimately, what really isn't expected, and as a fan, it can sting. But there's only one team that hasn't scored a goal in this World Cup,
yeah,
and that team is Uruguay.
no,
And that's
that's
a
sad.
team with Darwin Nunez, with Luis Suarez, with Edinson Cavani, with Jorge Arrascaeta, with Maxi Gomez. This is uh, with Nico de la Cruz. The list goes on. Federico Valverde. The list goes on. This is a team that has players that can put a ball in the back of the net. And to see that Uruguay hasn't scored a goal yet, not even offside goal been called off, it's very surprising, unpleasantly surprising.
Yeah, I mean for sure, and yeah, I mean, I think you know, I've talked about it in the past stream and also on Twitter, but it's unbelievable how the approach has been compared to the last qualifiers, which you mentioned also. And someone like Dallas Guetta or De La Cruz only to have two cameo appearances or one each. That's really well, and really good indication as to what the approach has been. Because I mean, we can talk about Vecino or Godino or Caceres, and these are players that I don't believe should play, but they played. Godino's maybe okay. It's not on the same level as Vecino and Caceres in terms of where they should be and where they shouldn't be in the team. Um, but the approach, I mean, first game against South Korea, you set yourself up to fail because you don't go for it. And yeah, we can talk about the header from Godin or the shot from Valverde, but these are not results of a clear game plan which indicates some that you want to control the game, because this wasn't a header from a corner and a shot from 30 yards out. So yeah, and that is just frustrating for me. Like I said, it hasn't got any. It's not how do you say? There's no point in delving into it and really feeling bad about it because it's happened. But
Mm-hmm.
Uruguay are now faced with a situation where you need a win, and also you don't need South Korea to win. Otherwise, you need to even obliterate Ghana
Mm-hmm.
to go through. And even then, when you go through, you go to Brazil or against
Mm-hmm.
Brazil, and people can talk about when you want to be world champion, you have to face the best, and that's absolutely true. But you know what? If you have a team to top up the group, which Uruguay I believe have, if they played their cards right, um, then you go in the favorable side of the draw, and there's momentum on your side if you go far in the tournament, which I believe that we can. And then you face a big team like Brazil or France. It's a different story, different
Yeah.
story than when you face them in the last 16 and you're just coming off a Gale Tex result against Ghana, which you just clinched your place in the last 16. Um, be that as it may, we still now have to face Ghana with that reality. And yeah, before I go into some comments, what is your expectation about this game, and how would you like to see Uruguay play? Not only in the players that we play, but the way we approach the game.
Sure. If we can take a moment to look at the South Korea match and kind of think about what was being done there,
Yeah,
we saw a lot of possession from Uruguay. If you recall, well, there was a lot of passing in the back line, and you can see there was a strategy of hold on to the ball, hold on to the back, just keep passing back and forth to try to find a way to move the ball forward. But the South Korean defense was doing very well in closing spaces and making it difficult to be able to press onward, because you wouldn't want a situation of a counterattack and then having to run back. It's a very fast team that works very well with counterattacks. So you could, as watching that match, I could see that, okay, control it, take your time, try to move it forward, and it just wasn't working out. It wasn't working out, um, and there also wasn't enough of maybe effort of someone just putting on the cape and just trying to lead the team
yeah,
forward. Um, there were some efforts there, right? Valverde with the shot, and De La Cruz came in. There's maybe some questions about the substitutions made as well during that match, and you wonder why. And then with the second match, you saw those sparks of brilliance from Betancourt. You can see Darwin Nunez trying to find a way to get into the game, get the crowd up, and it wasn't happening. It wasn't happening. That moment that you needed, that it's like you're waiting in anticipation for that ball to go through. It wasn't happening. Um, Maxi hitting it off the post. Shorshan trying to tip it over, but he misfired. Cavani swings and misses on that cross. So there are these moments of trying to get to that goal, but it hasn't been there. As for what to expect tomorrow, well, it's a history of coming from behind. It's a history of having your backs against the wall and then carrying forward a Herculean effort to move on. It's part of the history and the culture of the sport for that team and within the country. So I expect them to come out to win, but I also don't expect that Ghana is going to roll over and allow that to happen. I think they're going to look for ways to score, and they're going to look for the point that they need or the win that they need to move on and to have a date with Brazil on Monday.
Yeah.
But we also know that Uruguay is going to look for that win as well. I think one thing that's going to be important is the mental aspect of the game, the emotional aspect of the game, allowing for cooler heads to prevail. You don't want a situation where you're down to 10 players. You want to be able to carry out your game plan, be focused, and give your best to be able to win. It's 90 minutes to decide. Sure, the results of another match are important as well. That can't be controlled. You gotta go out there and win the game. And whatever the strategy or whichever 11 start, um, you hope for the best. Who do I expect starting tomorrow? Yeah, I mean, my question is, we have there's questions I've seen in on Twitter, even from the Warriors account. Ugarte should be in, or is Torreira or Ugarte going to play? Is Canobio going to have some minutes to come in because he can defend well and push the ball forward well? I don't know. Are we going to see any of the 5 captains even play tomorrow? We can certainly know that Muslera is not going to play tomorrow, except with the exception of if Rochette is injured. But are we going to see Suarez, Cavani, or Cáceres or Godin play tomorrow? I don't know. I really don't know. This is a team that, especially after that second match versus Portugal, I don't know what to expect. I woke up that morning and someone wrote me that it's going to be a midfield of 5 that drops back to become 5, and I couldn't believe it. So
Yeah.
we'll see. Hopefully the coaching staff puts this team, which I know they're aiming to do, in the best position to win tomorrow.
Yeah. Of course, that's what they. I mean, Diego Alonso has received a lot of criticism over the last 2 games, which for me is fair. But yeah, for sure they will realize that today or tomorrow. I mean, yeah, it's do or die, and there's no. Obviously, you have to remain cautious in your approach to a certain extent in every game, but the overly cautious approach of last 2 games, which I believe was the case. I mean, Alonso can come out and say whatever he wants, but we can see what is the reality on the pitch. Um, but yeah, the cautious approach, the overly cautious approach, has to change obviously tomorrow. And I think the point you make about South Korea, this is that Uruguay has historically um, well, not struggled in the sense that they have lost many games, but they have struggled in games against Asian opposition. Certainly against South Korea and Japan. I can remember 2 games in Asia a lot after the 2018 World Cup, where Uruguay, I think they drew one, and they got beaten once against South Korea and Japan. So yeah, it's a struggle against Asian oppositions sometimes, but yeah, Uruguay have more than enough to tomorrow go out and win and win well as well. Okay, I will go into the first comment. A lot of people already commented, and thanks a lot for you to do for doing this, and also thanks to everyone who's here and just watching. Or yeah, really appreciate it. And if you want, you can subscribe to the channel and like the video as well. And you can find me on Twitter on Uruguay Heroes and Farid. I've put the how do you say the Twitter handle in the description of the video, so then you can find him. Yeah. So yeah. So let's go then in the first comment. Ben Joss says, I've been following Uruguay ever since Cavani joined United. I hope tomorrow is the right result for Uruguay. But the performance is just as important. Has Alonso learned from these first 2 games? That's what you're going to find out. I mean, we hope so. We do hope so, really do hope so. But yeah, it's we haven't seen any like I don't mean apology, but like some comments by Alonso where he really reveals that he was wrong, or that that the first 2 games was the result was because of his approach or because of some of his mistakes he made. And I don't expect him to do this, but um, he has to realize certainly that some of the way that the games have been approached have been part of the problem. And yeah, and then he can change it, and hopefully he can, and hopefully it's not too late. So yeah, Monty says Alonso needs to play more attack minded. He can't be so conservative. How we played against Venezuela, Peru, Paraguay, and Chile, pressing and attacking football is what got us to the World Cup. That's a good point, because that's the thing. I mean, Suarez and Alonso both talked about how they've played in the qualifiers today in the press conference, and how this really should be something that they should replicate if they want to go far in this tournament. And yeah, these are different types of opponents. You can argue lesser opponents, but I don't think the difference is that much when it comes to South Korea, Ghana, and the four teams I just mentioned. Um, so hopefully, yeah, we can see this really. That would be great. And then another comment from Manti says, we reached the World Cup and he went back to playing Tabare's style of play. And it cost us both the Portugal and South Korea games. We're very winnable now and we need to beat Ghana. Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. Would you agree with that, Farid?
Yeah, I'm trying to see what it means by an Tawaris style of play. I understand the feeling. It's this feeling of you're dropping back. Why isn't the ball moving forward? Why aren't you scoring? Tawaris style of play also won a lot of games that way. It wasn't exciting, but it won a lot of games. I think you also. I wonder if there was a thought of um, trying to see how to guide these players depending who the opponent was. You're thinking of the South Korea match. If you lose that match and you go into the Portugal match without any points, and if the Portugal match ended the way it did, then tomorrow's game would just be a moot point and have no have no meaning for Uruguay, and it's just Ghana trying to see how many points they can accrue or not, and going on to the next round. There are players starting for Uruguay now that didn't play during the Tavares during Tavares' time as coach. Matias Oliveira being one of them, Sergio Rochette another. So there's a lot of things there. Maybe there are players that would have been called up if that team does make it to the World Cup with Tavares as coach. But you would hope that tomorrow would be much more offensively focused, that you just have to go out there, score goals, and win the game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's basically what it is. Yeah, on your point that we did win games on top burst, certainly, and I mean sometimes I'm really guilty of well, really when I'm talking about the Tabares era, I need to be more dividing it into two parts, which you need to do it because the first part of Tabares era was really great, but the second part was for me it was catastrophic to the end, especially. But what I wanted to ask to you is, I forgot what I wanted to ask to be honest.
If I can add something, it's
Yeah, for sure.
For
Yeah,
me, as fans, we're so excited. We're so excited. We see the talent on this team. We see how well the players are playing, especially the younger ones at a club level, and it causes a lot of excitement. And you feel for someone like Cavani when he's asked after the match, what's going on? He says, well, ask our coach. And for me, that's the kind of comment that we would have maybe never heard during the Tavares era, to have a player, especially a captain, say something like that. Now, that's not simply to disrespect Alonso. That's the frustration of the moment. That's the frustration of the moment, because this is Edison Cavani's last World Cup, and he plays for the team. He's a fan of the team. He's representing the country. He understands the talent and sees the talent on the team. So to see these outcomes, of course, it's frustrating. And you're trying to find something. You're trying to understand why. Like, we have the talent. Why isn't it working? Why hasn't it clicked? And that's where the frustration comes in. If you think about, people are taking what Josema said in a context of, oh, he said something, the tactics not there. No, he's saying it in a way of, hey, we've been meaning to win, but we can't. What's going on? So you understand that frustration. This is the outcome you did not expect to be happening. But it's important to know as well. And I know there's been an increase of fans to this team in the last 12 years, especially with how well they've had players at an international level perform at a high level. And also, one could maybe also talk about social media and how it allows for someone anywhere to engage more about what's going on with a sport, with an athlete, with a person, much quicker than before. Just to the fans who are watching, listening live or later on, if you weren't, or if you this country didn't qualify to the 94 World Cup, didn't qualify to the 98 World Cup, barely qualified to the 2002 World Cup in the playoff versus Australia, didn't qualify to the 2006 World Cup. It was, wins weren't always given. There was a lot of distractions, issues that would happen. A lot of talent didn't come together. What the Tavares era of this team, the second part of the Tavares era, did was that it set this team on a course of having stability, structure, and a way of trying to systematize its development and growth. Um, for me, it's helpful to remember that. And this is also a time of transition. I don't mean to, of course, as a fan, you want the team to win tomorrow. But I kindly ask fans to consider that if it doesn't work out tomorrow, it's not over, but there will be a period again of probable transition of who's going to lead the team next or not. We don't know. But regardless of the outcome, if it doesn't go the way that as fans of the team we want it to be, it'll be unfortunate, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. And the next tournament will come around, the next friendly will come around, and we'll be excited again, and we'll put on our jerseys, we'll wear the colors, and hope for the best. But of course, we hope tomorrow for the best and for the team to win.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The thing is, what the frustration with Josema voiced and also Cavani, I also didn't think it was really that directed to Alonso, because you can see that Alonso and the group and the team is on really good terms. But what the frustration for me came out from is that you have Alonso, he came in, Uruguay did well, played differently, played better, showing more initiative, and then you go to the World Cup and you see this betrayal of his own principles. That is what it seemed like to me, and that's maybe a bit harsh on him, but that's really how I interpreted these last two games, because it really has been a shift, and it's also the reason why I probably said that maybe the job is too big for him, because he is a manager who's done reasonably well in his career. He's done really well in Mexico for sure. In Inter Miami, I think it was a bit unfair at the time he was given. Certainly, when you see now how the team has progressed in its last 2 years under Phil Neville, it's not like he's been like so bad or something like this. So he's had a good career, but not at the level of this. Managing Uruguay at the World Cup, managing players of the magnitude of Suarez, Cavani, and Godin. So yeah, it's really hard to really see this. And I think the way you say it and looking at it rationally, and certainly when you say, yeah, obviously it's bad or it's not, it's not nice at the moment, but whatever happens, this is a team that is maybe in transition and also has many great stars coming through. So if it's not going to work out this tournament, there will certainly be more in the future where we can do well. What I would add to that, though, is that under Tavares, we had quite a few tournaments now where it's been really toxic because of how you guys played. So to have another tournament like this, it's for me, it's almost like, well, I understand what you're saying, but it's like we have wasted quite a few opportunities now to make something or to achieve something big with this team. And although Uruguay have won the Copa America in 2011, it's been like, for me, it's a feeling that could have been more, for this team. Certainly in the Copa Americas. But yeah, that's a bit leaves a bit of taste to me. Yeah.
Circumstances have also come about that made it difficult for this team to go further in regards to winning more championships in the tournaments that they've played in. Let's look, for example, yes, there was a 2011 Copa America victory. And after the Copa America and the qualifiers, this team came out hot. The famous Suarez 4-goal match against Chile.
Yeah.
Then things start, but then again, that team again had to go to a playoff to make it into the 2014 World Cup, which was really surprised. This was the time of Suarez coming up, main goal scorer in Europe, playing for Liverpool. Cavani is coming up as well with Napoli. Pieces are coming together, but this step of in the national team to go further, to win more, they had to play Jordan in a playoff, and they made it into the World Cup, but Here's where it gets a little tricky, and let's say in we say players have peaks maybe, or there's times that things just have to be just right, and there's a stroke of luck and the gelling together. 2014, we just don't know what would have happened if the bite incident and doesn't happen, right? Because let's think
Yeah.
about it. That biting incident in 2014 had was an earthquake within that team, within the culture maybe of the team, within the attitude and the emotions of the team, because you look at where some of those players were and the victories that they just came out of. You're and the way that the focus of the team, of the press, was Suarez getting suspended and not being able to play and being told to leave the country, being told to leave Brazil. And then you have a Luis Suarez who doesn't play the next Copa America. And the show the and then you have in that Copa America what happened to Cavani and him getting red carded, but we know what occurred, for what happened that caused him to get red carded. So you see this team had these issues happen that kind of held it back from this moment of just maybe going farther in term. What if Uruguay does beat Colombia? Then he would have had a date with Brazil in the Maracanã in the quarterfinals. We'll never know. What if Suarez wasn't suspended going into the next Copa America? We'll never know. And then you see 2018 comes around. It's a team that was coming up. Uh, Cavani gets injured. Maybe they should have been resting more. The qualifiers went very well. And that was also a qualifier that started without Suarez because he was suspended still. Um, and then you had the Copa America, the one that felt just right, but we had the two offside goals that were called off. So like there were always these moments that this team was right there, and they've had to overcome a lot, I think, emotionally and psychologically. And then even this qualifier, with how weak the team was moving the ball, to have to ask this father figure, grandfather figure to leave, to bring in a new manager with a whole new staff, to get the buy-in, to win the matches. It's been what a roller coaster these last 12 years have been. It's if you were to ask me, if you were to tell me after the 2006, 2005 loss to Australia in the playoffs, that from 2007, from that first Copa America that Tavares coached, all the way to now, this would be the history of the team, I'd be like, this is insane. You're telling me we've had the best goal scorers in Europe, some of the best defenders, very good, solid goalkeeping, strong defenders, a growing midfield, a strong U20 process, winning in South America, winning in Europe. This is wow. This is very exciting. Um, it's much better than where it was before. Do I want this team to go farther? Of course it was. Was I okay after the Portugal loss? Yeah, but the comments of the players then a little upset me a little bit. Yeah, they did, because you care about these players. There's an investment in them emotionally. But it's like the team was always just almost right there. But we had some unfortunate circumstances and issues that happen, held it back a bit from then seeing what else could have happened with this team.
Yeah, no, I fully get what you're saying, and certainly because you lived through these times which were, well, less positive, when you couldn't even have these discussions about what we're having now because we had a World Cup and we could go through. So yeah, I understand what you're coming from and what you're saying, which is well, probably good for me to put it into perspective. So yeah, Jorge Sapero here with a comment says, "Hey guys, how do you feel about the match tomorrow?" Um, you know what? I feel quite calm, which I know Farid and Alessandro as well. They really, ahead of the tournament, they were speaking about this game and they were fearing it, for obvious reasons. But I kind of think when you have Suarez, when you have Josema, and especially Valverde and Bentancur, the way I think they will be in this game, and they really know what it's about, and they really know they have to deliver, and they really are confident they can deliver. It makes me more confident knowing these guys, and certainly Suarez, because I mean this is a game which adds to his legacy. I think potentially. Obviously, it still has to happen, and we still have to see. Maybe he doesn't even play. Okay, but for me, it calms me down because I believe in them really, really to a high extent, and also the possibility of George Andarsketa finally being in the starting 11 would be a big one. And Monty says here as well, Ghana has scored 5 goals already. We have none. It's going to be tough. Which I don't know, this comment I want to pick up because it really is, Farid. It really is something that I mean, we faced South Korea and Portugal. We scored none, and Ghana went to them, scored five. I mean, they lost one, and they conceded a lot of chances in certainly in the game against South Korea. But I mean, that's not a good thing to realize, right?
It's not. This is like the worst position and situation to be in. Really, if you're a Ghana fan or a Ghanaian player, you're seeing this Uruguay team is like you got them right where you want them.
Yeah,
Backs against the wall, struggling on offense, struggling on defense, struggling to move the ball, have no idea what to expect tomorrow. It's like you have them right where you want them. Now, they also, they're going to come out to press the score. So all you need is just get the ball, run the other way, catch them flat-footed, and then it can be over just like that. So it's hard. And with what Jorge Sepp is also, I'm seeing in the chat with the comments. Thank you, Jorge, for being here. Thanks to everyone for being here and contributing with us, engaging with us in this conversation. What I wonder, what does it mean que vuelva la celeste de antes? People say, es que 14 Copa América, 15 Copa América, dos mundiales, cuatro estrellas, and all this and that. There was so much that this team has won in the past, and I believe that. But the game has evolved. The sport has evolved. The way the sport is developed has evolved. The economics of the sport has evolved. The economies of the countries involved at the forefronts of the sport has evolved. So is it a Celeste de antes when we struggled to get into the World Cup and it wouldn't happen really much? I'm talking post 80s. Are we talking about a better time during the Tavares era where there were more wins and kind of that step away from that stroke of genius to go further? What we have is La Celeste de ahora. And we want to be able to see this Celeste to go as far as they can. And the first step needed to see as far as they can is to win tomorrow and then hope for an outcome in another match. As a fan, do I look at the bracket right now and I understand what can possibly happen on Monday? And if Uruguay has to play Brazil in 90 minutes of football in the World Cup, do I like the chances? Yeah. Do I hope? Do I wish and dream? Yeah. Do I see who else is on that other side of the bracket of the final 16 that would cross that 2H, 1G bracket? Yeah, I do. But I understand the first thing is to win tomorrow and hope for some help on the other side of it, and then you see. Do I think Valverde is the most disappointing player in the World Cup right now? I personally don't, because Carlo Ancelotti is not coaching Federico Valverde right now. Vini doesn't play with Federico Valverde right now, and Toni Kroos is not next to him in the midfield. It's a different team. It's different players and a different structure and a different coach. I'm sure that Federico Valverde would have loved to have scored right now and have Uruguay with 6 points. I don't doubt that. I don't doubt his strive for excellence. I don't doubt his drive to win. And I'm hoping that tomorrow he can play in a more formidable position that could allow him to show his strengths much more than he has already.
Yeah. No, and you talk about the strike. I mean, obviously, when this goes in, tournament changes for someone, for Valverde. So that's also a thing, obviously. Yalmar Farah, who is he's a friend back home here in the Netherlands for me. So yeah, I tipped him, or I tipped that Uruguay were to win against South Korea against him. So he put money on it, and he lost. So yeah. So that was the only good side of Uruguay not winning, by the way. But okay, will Uruguay play more attacking football tomorrow? And like Mantis and Farid also commented or replied in the comments, is we have to win. They have no other option to, and that's what it is. We will play attacking football, and I don't think we will go guns blazing all out immediately, because that's not what Uruguay is about. And also, it's not really smart because Ghana is a team which I do believe is not the greatest defensively, but they have a lot of threatening players in attack, like Kudus, and they're I mean, it's a bit of a cliche to say it about African players, but it is true that they are strong and they are quick. I mean, that's just something that is true. And certainly Kudus, mentioned a second ago, he's a really excellent player. So yeah, that will be tough to face, and that's also why I think Uruguay have to play with Ugarte Torreira as a shield defensively, because it doesn't mean it's defensive. It's not because of playing one of these in the midfield, you really free up Bentancur and Valverde. So it's really, for me, in attacking sense, it's a good change to make, while also being more secure defensively. Because we can play with Valverde and Bentancur, which we probably will do, to be honest, and it could work. But for me, Bentancur Valverde as the double cinco is never the answer long term for Uruguay in big games to win tournaments. Um, but yeah,
If tomorrow when the lineup is announced, and if you see Godin and Cáceres in the match,
no, I mean that's it.
we're still gonna watch. We're still
Obviously,
gonna
yeah,
watch and hope for the
yeah,
best. And if you don't see any of the five captains in the lineup, you might get a little more excited. Like, oh my gosh, we're going really all in. Like for me, if tomorrow I turn on the TV or look at my phone and see that it's uh, De La Cruz and Arrascaeta and
yeah.
Darwin and Valverde, like wow.
That
And then
would
you
be
got
brilliant.
Betancourt and Torreira, or you got Oliveira on one side, and we'll see who's on the right. Um, then that's going to be very, very exciting to see. Um, I don't see it in the chat, and I don't see it mentioned much at least in the parts of Twitter that I've seen. Um, Araujo's presence, his not being able to play is felt. That was that we're seeing what the loss of Araujo on that defense and for the tactics of this team has done.
Yeah.
Um, I think that was a player that was involved in that more attacking, forward pushing style that we saw in the qualifiers and in all of the friendlies except for the last two when he was injured. So it is he has been missed on this team, what he means for the team on the pitch.
Yeah, for sure. I still think it's not like a Suarez miss, obviously, but it's also not. We could have dealt with it if we played better. But yeah, for sure, when you want to go far in the tournament, Araujo will be like so important because because of how good he is, and also because how secure he makes us. Because he's almost, when he plays on the right, he almost plays like a center back and a right back in one. Uh, so yeah, and also, I mean, it's not his quality or not his speciality, but his long bursts on the right or his crosses. I mean, in some qualifiers, it seemed like he could do everything.
Right, because as you're very well familiar, and others in the chat as well, up until a few years ago, he was a forward. He was a striker.
Yeah,
It's when he's in Montevideo where he's asked to become a defender, and he's like, "No, I want to be up top scoring goals." So he has movement with the ball. He can put the ball in the back of the net. So again, he's a player that's missed a lot in the way that this team and this coaching staff had strategy to make the team move. Major loss for this
yeah.
team, more than we would have imagined.
No, for sure, I agree. I agree. But yeah, it seems to always happen. So yeah. Jorge Cepero says, David, if Uruguay hopefully wins tomorrow and qualifies, will you bring out the receipts? So I saw a video today of like Ghanaians talking outside the stadium, at stadiums, about Suarez, and then a video of Suarez. And I thought about posting it, but I was thinking, well, no, they're just stupid to do that. But I do have it in my drafts, so we will know. I mean, for me, and I think for most people who support Uruguay and also Uruguayan players, there's nothing personal with Ghana. It's really the other way around. Uh, and I mean, fortunately, or it doesn't really matter to me anyway. But I saw Thomas Partey talk about it. I saw the manager of Ghana talk about it. Asamoah Gyan, the one who missed the penalty, obviously, talk about it. And for them, it's also something of the past, and also something that they would really point to themselves and say, "Well, we missed the penalty. Penalty. I mean, Suarez did what everybody would have done in this country, but Ghanaian supporters." Really, they cannot get over it. I mean, certainly now when you get close to the game, there isn't a day that goes by when I see a Ghanaian in my comments talking about this, which is funny to be honest. But it will be less funny when Uruguay actually do go out and Ghana does go through. So yeah, we
Yeah,
will see.
it's part of the it's just the way it goes right now amongst fandoms in sport. You know, and in the way of current more societal structures and stories, there needs to be an antagonist,
Yeah,
and this antagonist for the last 12 years of Ghanaian football has been Luis Suarez. If Gian uh, hadn't missed the penalty kick, if it doesn't hit the crossbar and Ghana moves on, then Luis Suarez would have not been an antagonist in this story, but instead a jester
yeah,
of, oh, because of him he used his hands, why didn't he use his face, oh, there was two play off, the foul, the offsides, all these things. The narrative would have been very different than going into tomorrow. But it is how it is. This is the way that we currently, a lot of expression in sport. But I think what I'm excited about is tomorrow, David, whatever happens tomorrow, there has to be a live stream.
oh yeah, yeah,
Whatever happens tomorrow, there has to be a live stream
yeah.
with the Warriors. And uh, I have my receipts that David has. He can bring them out. I have no concerns. I have receipts for a possible Monday match as well that can be brought out, and I've sent to David and Alessandro and a few other fans too. And I hope that we can bring those receipts out. And if we can't bring out my receipts, that's fine. That's just the way it goes. I'm allowed to be hopeful too. But it's I this is where we're at as fans. This is where the story is. This is what's being recounted and remembered, that Suarez used his hands, uh, was thrown out of the game. The penalty kick was missed, and in penalty kicks, Uruguay does score more. Muslera blocks some, and Uruguay moves on. Um, but we have this narrative of saying this is this horrific thing that happened. One could say in 2006, what happened to in the final in that match, and Zidane not being in the penalty kicks.
Mm.
Now one can say, maybe that other player, Materazzi, should have not been speaking to Zidane that way, or Zidane should have cooled his emotions, or Materazzi sold the headbutt. So it's just part of the way it goes. We look for antagonists. We look for a way to justify. I can look for a way to justify that, oh, that wasn't a handball by Jimenez. It's been confirmed by FIFA. But at the end of the day, the game is over, and you got to move on.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, for me, the Josema one, I don't really think about it anymore. Even if Uruguay go out, I don't really think about it as well because, yeah, yeah. But anyway, James Harden, not the real one, I would think, but I'm a
The
Uruguay fan.
beard, big fan. Respect your game, dude.
He says, I'm a Uruguay fan since the 2010 World Cup. I really fell in love with that team, especially Forlan was such an excellent player. After that tournament, my favorite team, Galatasaray, signed Muslera. And then he says, my sympathy to Uruguay increased a lot more after that transfer. Since then, I'm rooting for Uruguay in every World Cup and Copa America. Muslera is a freaking legend. Well, that's good to hear, man. Muslera really is a legend for Gala, and also, his legacy for Uruguay is also big. It's a shame how it's now how it now ends. But Muslera has had many good games, and also some lesser ones. But he goes down for sure as I think one of the best. I mean, probably the best I've seen for Uruguay. I mean, when you go on about the best, Uruguay had many good goalkeepers in the past. Uh, and he's not up there with, for example, Ladislao Masurkiewicz. I'm not sure if I really mentioned that right. I think, and there are also many goalkeepers who played, especially in Brazil, for Uruguay, uh, um, that have done really well in the past. But Muslera, yeah, he's done well. He's done well, and hopefully there can be a successor to him that's doing what it's gonna do well either. Because Rochette, I think he's 29. Yeah, he can be there for certainly the next 6 years. But our hopes really are with Franco Israel, I think, from Sporting, because Uruguay really do need, like any nation, a top goalkeeper to fight for the big trophies in the coming years. So yeah, but good to see Muslera getting some love from you. Manti says the only captain of the five I tolerate in the starting lineup is Cavani. Okay, yeah. I'm not the same. For me, it's Cáceres, Godin, and Muslera, who I don't really think should play. Cavani and Suarez, I wouldn't start them both, but I would certainly want to see them both in the game, and I think it will happen as well. To be honest, because I mean, I kind of laughed when Maxi Gomez came on because it was really a bit of a surprise to me, and I also didn't agree with it. I mean, he scores and it's over. I mean, it's all different, obviously, but he hits the post. But it was really a weird one for me because yeah, I don't know how you looked at this, Farid. What at the Maxi Gomez sub?
So I here in the U.S., I watch the broadcast in Spanish, and Forlan is one of the commentators. So
Yeah,
it's really something to see Diego as a fan of the team, to have Diego there, and to also notice his composure, but also his comments sometimes. You know, in the first match, he struggled. You can see it's like we're not. Valverde and Darwin Nunez aren't being used to their strengths.
no.
And in the second match, I think it was as players are warming up, and the other commentator says, "Oh, there's players warming up. Do you think they're going to take out Nunez?" And Forlan's immediate response was "Ni loco," and I responded with him, "There's no way you're taking out Darwin Nunez." But then when you see that Darwin Nunez is pulled from the match, it was surprising. You would have
Yeah,
hoped that he could have been there for the entire 90. Uh, Seeing Maxi Gomez come in with there's a saying that's used at least in baseball, and I don't know if it's used so much in football internationally, but when we say a player is due or a team is due, a team is or a player is due for a good run or for a positive moment or due for a negative moment. So one can say that Diego Alonso was due for a negative moment on this team. It just happened in the worst time possible. So one would think, Maxi Gomez was due to come in and put one in the back of the net and that stroke of genius. And he almost did. He
yeah,
almost did. The ball just needed a little bit more bend, and it would have been in the back of the net, and the match would have been tied. But that was a surprising substitution for me.
yeah. No, it was. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. That's funny thing about
I
full
mean, him
odds.
getting called up was a surprise too.
Yeah, it was. It was only probably down to Satriano or Canario not really hitting the ground running in their
Yeah,
seasons.
or Terans.
Yeah. So yeah, Amedao says here, do you think Uruguay can turn it around? I think we both think Uruguay can turn it around. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, we will have to see. It's gonna be. I will plug in, by the way, my laptop because otherwise the stream will end in a couple of seconds, I guess. Okay. Kenny says controversial opinion to bench Nunez, but what do you guys think? In my opinion, Alonso should play single striker formation with Suarez up top and Valverde, Rascaeta taking on more offensive role. Um, well, I also do think a one striker formation is well, I don't think it should happen. I think a two striker formation can also happen, and I think it will happen. But I'm okay with playing 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1 with Dallas Keita, Valverde, De La Cruz being getting into the team, or maybe even Pelistri. But Farid, what do you think? What would I mean? I'm not going to ask for your full lineup, but what would your offensive setup be against Ghana?
I would have Nunez in. In the
Yeah,
words of Forlan, of Nunez not playing, ni loco. For 35-year-old Luis Suarez, as many times I've sang and yelled his goals and have a lot of memories of the goals that he has scored, and even seen him score live. It's been great memories. But if I'm going to take a young Darwin Nunez to a Luis Suarez at the sunset of his career,
yeah,
at a match like this, I would like to see Darwin Nunez in the starting 11 tomorrow for sure. And on the offensive side, um, I would like to be able to see an offense that has Darwin, Valverde, and Arrascaeta together, pushing the ball forward, and even Nico de la Cruz. I think you have to put in your best lineup to win tomorrow.
yeah,
But that it comes down to what the coaching staff also defines as best. What are they seeing in trainings? What do they see that they're hopeful for? Is tomorrow a match to have one of the veterans in at the top, Cavani or Suarez, to look for it as well? I don't know anymore. I really don't know. This was what was going into the World Cup for me was the five captains, the five veterans. What can they give this team? If Godin was getting pulled in the second half of the match, was that then a wasted sub? One could say no. He gave you a great 45 minutes at the beginning. If Cavani hits that volley, that crossover, and he's able to strike it in, then it works out. Suarez's ball goes in, right? But it's you have to put in the best in there. And for me, if it doesn't happen tomorrow, then it's coming in the future where you have a Nico de la Cruz, an Arrascaeta, Darwin Nunez, Valverde, Satriano, the young kid coming out of Madrid, and so many other strikers that are coming up. The list goes on and on
Yeah.
for this team. But tomorrow, I would like to be able to see up top Arrascaeta, Valverde, and Nunez.
Okay. And just quickly on the midfield, would you like to see Bento Valverde and then maybe De La Cruz, or
Yeah, I think we'd have to see, um, Ugarte or Torreira.
yeah.
Uh, Torreira has the experience of playing in World Cup matches. Ugarte doesn't. You'd have to see who has that confidence to be able to again be a cool head, because there is going to be an emotional and psychological game going on tomorrow as well. You need one Uruguayan player to get hot in the head, um, and that's not what you want. You need to understand who can be a cooler head that can prevail. Who has that maturity to know that if the player is whispering, player is talking to your head, giving you a little nip here and there, you're able to keep it together and not go in for a hard foul and hurt the team.
Yeah, good point. On my Twitter, I did a lineup, and maybe you've seen it, maybe not, but doesn't really matter. I put Suarez on top, and I do still think it's the way to go. But for some reason now I'm thinking, well, it wouldn't be a bad thing also to play with Cavani or Darwin or both, and then maybe bring Suarez on in the second half, because what you will get, and that's Suarez had it a lot of time for Atletico, for example, when he plays against two central defenders, sometimes three, and they really have to be worn out before he can be effective with his predatory instincts in the box. Because Suarez physically is not going to match up to, for example, Mohamed Salisu, who will playing against Ghana, playing for Ghana probably tomorrow. So maybe it's probably better than to play Suarez maybe from the 60, 70 minute mark. But yeah, I
If
mean,
necessary.
yeah, it's necessary. True, that's true. But I mean, even if isn't necessary, he will probably come on. But I get what you mean. Yeah, yeah. But we will see. Jorge Cepero says here, what do you guys think about Godin restricting Twitter comments to those who he follows? And I think the criticism affected him.
He's a human, just like we all are,
Yeah,
and we can't understand the pressure that he's feeling right now of being a team captain of a storied football country, who has had the longevity of career that he has had. He carries his heart on his sleeve for this team and for his country. He's not just he's not some. Of course, he feels. Humans feel, and there's no doubt that he also feels disappointed by the performance of this team.
no, I think as well. I mean, yeah, I mean, Godin, I didn't like some comments from him where he said that people criticize him don't know anything about football. I think it's a bit arrogant, but well, we all know what Godin is about. He loves Uruguay and he wants to play for Uruguay and do the best for Uruguay. Uh, so yeah, I didn't see this about the restriction of comments. What for me doesn't even really matter anyway. Because even though if he's on the bench tomorrow, which I hope he is, because I hope we play with Coates and Josema, I mean, he will still be there for the best of the team. I mean, that's Godin as well. So yeah, um, okay. Uh, Deadshot says the only veteran that I'd accept starting is Suarez. The rest stay on the bench, please. Okay. Well, what we, I mean, the comment here as well from Flawless says Nunez didn't get a single ball of those that he gets for at Liverpool or Benfica. Just one of those, and it's a chance for Uruguay. And I mean, that shot says here that Suarez is the only one, and not even Cavani. I think the criticism on Nunez or the criticism on Suarez or on Cavani is all a bit unfair. Because, like Flawless said in his comment, Darwin really doesn't or didn't have any chance so far. a big chance anyway, which is mainly down to the way we set up, way we've played, certainly for the first 60, 70 minutes in a game. So that's what we really hope tomorrow is that we see players like Suarez, like Cavani or Darwin getting in these positions where they can be so deadly, being supplied by Darasqueta or De La Cruz or maybe Torres, Pelisti, whoever. That's what we want to see. And hopefully we will see this. Team news, we don't know at the moment. We're gonna see about this, and we're gonna see what Alonso considers to be the best team to go with. Yeah, I think we're just waiting now. I think it's like, what is it, 17 hours, 16 hours. So yeah, that's what's gonna be. Farid, where are you watching tomorrow? At home or with friends or?
I haven't decided yet because it is earlier in the morning. So if I want to go to a friend's house, I would have to uh, leave the house at around 6 o'clock to be
Okay,
there
yeah,
6:30, or go tonight and stay there the night and wake up in the morning, um, or watch it here at home.
yeah.
Um, so I have yet to decide. I have to also, yeah, like, do I want to watch it at home, or do I want to watch it out at a friend's house? To be determined.
Okay, no, I understand this. Yeah, yeah. For me, it's better time wise, obviously. So for me, it's 4 p.m. in the middle of the day. Uh, so yeah, yeah. Well, I was I watched the last game with my brother, and he's not the Uruguay fan or anything. So it was, well, different.
Is your brother a football fan?
Yeah, yes, yeah,
Is
yeah,
he
yes.
happy with the who the Dutch are going to be playing?
Well, over here it's he. I don't know. Yeah, he's okay. I mean, they are true, but over here it's like really a bad mood because they're playing so badly, which is true.
Mm.
But on the other end, you just saw Germany go out, Denmark last night, so could be worse. But I don't think Netherlands will go past the quarterfinals. To be honest, last 16 they might against USA, but then I think they will go up to it.
If USA were to knock out our, yeah,
Yeah,
so
I mean, which could be the case because I think they handled Iran quite well. I also think Iran were atrocious in the game. To be honest, when they really had to go for it, they really didn't produce
yeah, they
anything.
had some other things in their lives going on as well.
That's true. That's true
Yeah.
for sure. No, absolutely. But yeah, no, it will be an interesting match by the way between USA and in the Netherlands. I mean, because you obviously support Uruguay, but in terms of USA, does it matter to you or not? And if they do well?
Again, I'm always hopeful for great football. Um, I do sometimes wonder about things that go on behind the scenes, and you can't speculate or conspiracy, but I can say this, and hopefully there isn't any uh, hidden, let's say, agendas that happen between the Netherlands US game, and we get a clean, fair, fully fair game. But the World Cup is in the US, Canada, and Mexico in 4 years. There's
Yeah.
one CONCACAF team left in this tournament, and that's the US. On the other end, the winner of that match would play Australia and Argentina. And Argentina are the heavy favorites going into that match against Australia. Still, you got to play the match. You never know what's going to happen. But I can say this now, and you can quote me, and here's a receipt. If Argentina were to wins, and the U.S. pulls off the upset
Yeah.
against the Dutch, which I think Van Gaal is a great manager, and I look forward to seeing how he prepares his squad to play the U.S. A U.S. Argentina quarterfinal match will become the most watched football match on TV in U.S. up to date U.S. history. A U.S. versus Messi match in a
Yeah.
quarterfinal would have a lot of people in this country watching because of the diversity of population here, because it's Messi, and what it also would mean for FIFA and the U.S. and the CONCACAF to have that sort of match as something to hype up leading to the World Cup in 4 years. Again, that would be very exciting. There would be a lot of economic profit to that. I hope fully that the U.S. Netherlands game is fully fair and transparent and has no funny business and get involved in it.
No. No, it was. I mean, the point you make about US against Argentina, that would really be yeah,
I will go on record and say the following because it is my opinion, and I know this goes on the internet and will be there forever. I'm rooting for the Dutch.
Yeah, you are okay.
I'm gonna have a lot of friends if they see this. Oh my gosh, I'm rooting for the Dutch.
Oh,
I
that's
I
all right.
respect the Dutch national team a lot. Their history. When we talk about being due, they're due to have a star on that jersey. I never
Yeah,
count out the Dutch. I never count out the Dutch. And as a fan of football, if Argentina wins their match and the Dutch win theirs, a Netherlands Argentina quarterfinal match, woo, that excites me much more than a US Argentina match. Much more than a US Argentina match.
no, absolutely. I mean, the
There's
history.
so much history there.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh. And for a ticket,
unbelievable.
2014 and 98 and 2002. Oh my gosh.
Yes, and yeah, no, the absolutely 78 final. I remember one of the
78
first.
final.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of the first games I like. My dad told me about. Yeah, I mean that would be a brilliant game. Um, so yeah, I mean, as the tournament progresses, I just hope Uruguay to be in these games as well.
I
And
hope to watch Uruguay play on Monday just like you do.
yeah, for sure. I mean, will be nerve wracking and a really tough game. But first, it's Ghana, and that's what we focus about. So, like Farid mentioned, we have to go live after the game, which I believe is the truth as well. We should, in any case, because yeah. So we will. I mean, not sure about at what time or with Farid and Alessandro or only with Farid. We'll see. Anyway, doesn't we will see in our update on Twitter. But I just want to thank everyone who followed the live stream, voiced their opinion, or just watch, which is also fine with me. Really grateful for this, and hopefully we will see you tomorrow after Uruguay have clinched their spot in the last 16.
Hopefully
That would be
so.
great.
If not,
Otherwise, we would also welcome you, but yeah, with
thank you.
different circumstances, obviously. But yeah, thanks once again for being
Thank
here.
you so much for having me on with you. And thank you to the audience who was watching and engaging with us in the chat.
No, absolutely fine to have you on as always. And if you want, guys or girls, you can like the video. Would really appreciate that. Um, the StreamYard subscription I was thinking about getting, which I should really get. I haven't got it now, but I will certainly get it in the future, and I will try to get more regular with my YouTube updates beyond the World Cup as well, to maybe have some weekly features and stuff like this with myself. Maybe Farid to see if he's into that. Maybe Alessandro, but that will be yeah, is the plan for the future anyway. So yeah, okay, we will see you tomorrow, and hopefully you enjoy the game tomorrow, and we can win. Come on.
Vamos arriba.